It's been about 3 months now since I did my really early NFL playoff predictions, and now that we only have 6 weeks left in the regular season, and the season is going to be wrapping up really quickly, I thought I would do my last playoff prediction before we actually get into the playoffs. I finally got my Matthew Stafford jersey in. I love these Rams colors, the white with the yellow and blue. I'm just gonna put this out here right now. You don't gotta remind me. I know the Rams are not hot right now. I have a lot of feelings about them right now, and that's not what this video is about. But I'll just say, it's never too late to turn around, and the Rams have the Jaguars this week. This is the game they needed. They need to just pound on the Jags, hoping for them to go on a 6-run stretch. You know, this is important. This is when teams get hot, and if you can get hot in this moment, this is where you'll stay hot in the playoffs. So I'm just going to speak about this really quickly before I get into the video. I spoke very highly on the Rams. I did state that they were my Super Bowl favorites, and I don't feel that way every year, but something about this year felt different. I mean, look at the raw talent they have. Look at the superstars they have. You can't blame me for thinking that. They haven't been playing that way. I'll tell you right now, I still feel like they can do it. I still feel like they can turn it around and actually go to the Super Bowl and win it. But these playoff predictions isn't about what I feel or what I think could happen. This is playoff predictions as of what teams look like right now. So let's get into it. Let me quickly just give you my playoff seedings for the NFC and the AFC. So the number 1 seed in the AFC, I believe, belongs to the Kansas City Chiefs. I think these last 6 weeks, they're going to kick it up into high gear, and even though they don't have much of a defense at all, that offense will do the talking, and I think they will manage to get the first seed. Number 2, I have the Baltimore Ravens also at 12-5, and where you have record ties, that's where the statistics will come into play, so mainly how many points you've scored compared to the other teams. I think the Baltimore Ravens are easily capable of holding on to the second seeded spot in the AFC. Their defense is hot and cold at times, and same thing with their offense, hot and cold, but I still think that that team is capable of securing the second. With the third, you have the Tennessee Titans at 12-5. I felt very odd putting this one at 12-5 just because of how broken that team seems to be right now, but if they can get their pieces in order, and if maybe Ryan Tannehill wants to get the ball to his wide receivers more often, they could end 12-5, and I could see it happening. At number 4, I have the New England Patriots also at 12-5. I think the New England Patriots are surprising so many people right now. I don't think many people expected the Patriots to be this good, especially with the way they started the season. I just want to say right now, congratulations to that team, not just because I think that defense is the best defense in the league, but Bill Belichick has been able to get Mac Jones off the ground, and even though he still has a lot of room for improvement, there's no denying that this team is putting up a fight. Those are your divisional leaders right there, all at 12-5. And then interestingly enough, I put the number 5 seed with the Cincinnati Bengals at 12-5 again. So the very interesting thing that I have about the AFC is that the top 5 teams are all tied with 12-5 records. That's because I believe in the AFC, there is much more internal fighting in the AFC than there is in the NFC. On the NFL site, you can actually look at if the season ended right now, which teams would be making the playoffs and what seeds they would be. When you look at the NFC, to me, it already looks pretty final. I think the only thing that depends now is where the seeding will fall within the top 7 teams. But with the AFC, I think there's a lot of room to play around with, and a lot of different teams can like squeeze their way in and stuff. So that's why I have so many teams at 12-5. Moving on to the 6th seed, I have the Buffalo Bills at 11-6. And I know going into the year, we all had Buffalo taking the number 1 spot in the division, but the Patriots are clearly saying no to that. I mean, going into the season, I definitely thought Buffalo was going to be at least 13-4, 14-3, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. Then again, there's still 6 6 games left in the season, so they could still end 13-4, but right now I have them as the 6th seed as 11-6. Then the 7th and last seed of the AFC, I have the Los Angeles Chargers coming in at a 10-7 record. To be honest with you, this was a lot harder than, maybe other people would think, because I was thinking here the Raiders, the Broncos, the Colts, and the Dolphins. And most of those teams, when I was looking at their record, I'm starting to think some of them are going to come away with a 9-8 record. At the best, 10-7. I just think that the Chargers will end up beating out the tiebreakers. One team I've said even in my previous prediction video, the Colts. The Colts have had a rough start. I do honestly think that by the end of this season, the Colts could push into that 7th seed, but I don't really know if it's going to happen. I have the Chargers at 10-7. All right, now going to the NFC seeding. At the number 1 seed, I have the Green Bay Packers at 14-3. The Green Bay Packers are certainly showing that they are not just a contender for the playoffs, but a contender for the Super Bowl. And even though technically right now they are the 2nd seed in the league, I think they push their way to the 1st seed and they don't lose a game in doing so. At number 2, I have the Arizona Cardinals at 13-4. I do think the Cardinals will drop at least 2 games in these last 6 games of the season, but even that being said, they are still one of the top dogs moving over into the Super Bowl. At number 3, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, also at 13-4. And let's be honest here, it's Tom Brady. It's a full team of starters from the year before. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a super team as well. There's no denying their talent could be considered that. So yes, they will easily win out their division with especially who is in their division. And then at seed number 4, I have the Dallas Cowboys coming in at 11-6. I do have them losing a couple of more games compared to the other divisional champions. I just think the Dallas Cowboys have so much talent on their roster, and they certainly don't show it, not just at times, but in important times, and that leads them to losing games. And I think Dallas will end up losing a couple of more games before the season ends and they drop to 11-6, but still are divisional champions. Then moving on to the 5th seed, I do have the Los Angeles Rams there, and I have them going at 12-5. I do have the Los Angeles Rams at a better record than the Dallas Cowboys, but of course they are a lower seed because they're not a divisional champion. The Cardinals would essentially take that away from them. With the Los Angeles Rams, I do have them pretty much winning out the rest of their season except for the last game of the year, which would be the San Francisco 49ers. Sean McVay and the Rams have not been able to beat the 49ers in about 2-3 years now, and it's not going to happen now, so they will lose that end of the year game. And this is me hoping and assuming the Rams are going to turn things around, and I do believe they can end their season on a good note before heading into the playoffs. Then moving on into the 6th seed, I have the Minnesota Vikings pushing their way into the playoffs with a 9-8 record. That is pretty much what this Minnesota team has been this year. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. They just trade a win for a loss or a loss for a win. There is no denying that their team is certainly talented enough on the offensive side, although their defense is definitely the question, but I do ultimately think they will be able to push their way into the playoffs. And then with the 7th seed in the NFC, I do have the San Francisco 49ers pushing their way into the playoffs with a 9-win and 8-loss record, the same as the Minnesota Vikings. Shoot me in the head because I despise the San Francisco 49ers, but I cannot deny the push they seem to be making right now. They are very hot right now, but I do think that San Fran is going to hit a little bit of a snag in the next couple of games where they're going to start to do what Minnesota does right now. They're going to trade wins for losses or losses for wins, and then finally squeeze in with a 9-8 record. Okay, I'm actually going to start start with the NFC playoff rounds here because I think everyone will be very surprised to see what I got going on in the AFC. So starting with the NFC wild card, we have the number 2 seeded Arizona Cardinals versus the number 7 seeded San Francisco 49ers. In the winner of the matchup, I have the Cardinals coming out victorious. I think the Cardinals team is too stacked right now and too powerful to lose in the first round of the playoffs. And I don't know if the 49ers, granted, if the Cardinals can stay this way moving on to the playoffs, I don't know if the 49ers will be able to handle how hot the Arizona team is. Then in the next matchup, you have the number 3 Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the number 6 Minnesota Vikings. And the winner of the game, I do have the Buccaneers, and I do have it a comfortable win as well. I think there's a chance that the first half of a game like that could be somewhat even, like a 14-14 moving on into halftime. But moving forward after halftime, I could see the Buccaneers pulling away with 24 unanswered points against the Vikings. Buccaneers win that. Then I have the number 4 seeded Dallas Cowboys versus the number 5 seeded Los Angeles Rams. And the winner of this matchup, I have the Los Angeles Rams. When I look at the Cowboys and I look at the Rams, they are both 2 teams that on paper have unbelievable teams, and more so the Rams over the Cowboys, more so the Rams over pretty much any team in the NFL. They're just not certainly playing like that right now. Although if it comes to full strength and both teams play that way in the playoffs, I do not think the Cowboys would be able to take down the Rams, so the Rams take that matchup. Now moving on into the divisional round. This is where we have a repeat matchup from what we just had last week, the number 1 Green Bay Packers versus the number 5 Los Angeles Rams, where we have the winner in the Green Bay Packers. I know I have the Rams winning the Super Bowl. Right now, the Rams don't look like a Super Bowl team, and right now, if this is where we were in the season, yeah, the Green Bay Packers are going to take this game. The Rams would have to go back into Lambeau Field and play them on their own turf. It might be snowing this time. Weather is a huge factor for not only warm teams, but LA teams. We don't do good in the cold. So I would have the Green Bay Packers moving on into the conference round. Then we have the number 2 seeded Arizona Cardinals versus the number 3 seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And believe it or not, I have the Cardinals winning this game and taking down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't think the Bucs fully have what it takes this year. I do think they are suffering a little too much from drama and injuries right now, and I don't see that ending anytime soon. Although the playoffs are a completely different beast. Teams you think will do good won't do good, and vice versa. And it's Tom Brady. You can never disregard this guy in the playoffs. I just think the Cardinals have fought too hard this season to lose in the divisional, so they push their way into the conference. Into the conference round, we obviously have the number 1 seeded Green Bay Packers versus the number 2 seeded Arizona Cardinals. Another rematch of which we had this year, where the Green Bay Packers topped the Arizona Cardinals in the last seconds of the game. And I do also believe that the Green Bay Packers come out on top against the Arizona Cardinals. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers have had so much difficulty in the NFC Championship round. They always seem to lose in that round, and they can never seem to get past it to the Super Bowl. I think this year, right now, from what I'm seeing in the league, I think Green Bay could pretty much top anybody they wanted right now and push their way into the Super Bowl. Okay, so now moving on into the AFC wildcard games. The number 2 Baltimore Ravens versus the number 7 Los Angeles Chargers. And the winner of this game, I do have the Baltimore Ravens. Earlier in the year, I was toying with this idea that the Chargers and the Rams would possibly make the Super Bowl because it would be an all LA Super Bowl. It would be super beneficial for the NFL money-wise. But overall, from what I've seen from these teams so far, the Chargers are not not as good as I thought they would be. They're 6-5 right now. I thought they would maybe be 7-4, maybe even 8-3, to be honest with you. And they're just not playing that way. I think they would put up a good fight against the Ravens in the wild card round, but I think the Ravens would maybe win out with 3-4 points. Then the number 3 Tennessee Titans versus the number 6 Buffalo Bills. I know by playoff time, Tennessee is supposed to be a lot stronger and a lot healthier, but I do have this feeling that when Buffalo makes the playoffs, I just have a feeling they're going to get a little bit of like an offensive and defensive spark, and they're just going to really play as hard as they can. And I have the Bills coming out on top against the Titans, and once again, only by a 3-4 point margin. Then I have the number 4 seeded New England Patriots versus the number 5 seeded Cincinnati Bengals. And believe it or not, I have the Bengals taking this game. I think the Bengals are one of the most dominant yet slept on teams in the NFL right now. That offense is so good, and so is that defense. They have a lot of key pieces on that defense that are, like, you don't laugh at what they got going on there. I just think a younger, fresher New England Patriots moving into the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. I think Jesse Bates on the Bengals defense makes him regret some of his throws and picks him off maybe once or twice. And I think Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, and Jamar Chase, the 3 J's, just light up that Patriots defense, which many teams haven't been able to do so far. Moving on into the AFC Divisional Round, we have the number 1 Kansas City Chiefs versus the number 6 Buffalo Bills, and I actually once again have the Bills taking this game. I don't think KC is fully ready for the playoffs this year, and I don't see a Super Bowl contention from them the more I think about it. It's just easy to picture them there because of how good their team is supposed to be, but they are also not really playing that way. And I think Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills are, once again, they're going to push and fight their way to this Super Bowl. And then the number 2 Baltimore Ravens versus the number 5 Cincinnati Bengals. And believe it or not, I have the Cincinnati Bengals taking this game. Cincinnati, when they fought the Ravens this year, completely demoralized them. And I'm not saying that's how it would be in this playoff game, but I do think that Cincinnati wins comfortably by at least 10 points or 2 touchdowns. And then finally, ending the playoff rounds, moving on into the conference round of the AFC, you have the number 5 seeded Cincinnati Bengals versus the number 6 seeded Buffalo Bills. Once again, I have the Cincinnati Bengals winning that game. I have the Cincinnati Bengals going to the Super Bowl, guys. I have them going to the Super Bowl. The beginning of the year, I would have never even imagined something like that. But now it's possible in my mind, the way I see the league moving. And that's something that's interesting about this year. There's teams out there that I think should be vastly dominating, like the Bills, like the Rams, like the Ravens. But no one's doing it. No one's really like showing we are the top dog. We've been the top dog since the beginning of the year and will continue to do so moving into the Super Bowl. The only teams that you could argue have really been doing that is the Cardinals and maybe the Packers. So this year's just been really, really interesting so far. I mean, I had the Bengals being a better team this year, but I didn't think I would feel this way about them right now. So in the Super Bowl being played in LA, I have the Green Bay Packers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Another rematch of which we had in the year where they had 6 or 7 field goal misses. And I don't think that happens again in this Super Bowl, but I certainly do believe that this might be a once again 7 to 10 point differential, and the Packers come out on top and finally win another Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. So there it is, my middle of the season, somewhat 3/4 of the season for my NFL playoff and Super Bowl predictions. I have the Green Bay Packers making the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl over the Cincinnati Bengals too. team that I never thought I would feel this way about, but I do. You know, it's so interesting how an NFL season can completely change and look different over a course of 2-3 weeks. Things can just look drastically different. For example, the Rams, they were 7-1 and now they were 7-4. I had the Rams ending their year 15-2 or 14-3, and now the best they'll be able to do is 13-4, and I don't even know if they'll be able to do that. It depends on how hard they play moving forward. It also depends on how bad they want this. If anyone is interested in seeing my very early predictions and then comparing it to the predictions I just had right now, I'll put a link to that video in the description below, and I'll also tag it on this video so you can click on it and check it out for yourself. I was watching it prior to making this video, and it's very, very interesting how different some of my predictions are, especially something like the New Orleans Saints. I mean, if Jameis Winston was still there, I think they pushed their way into the playoffs, but now they weren't even in this video. Alright guys, but now it's your turn to let me know what you think, not of just my predictions, but maybe of some of your predictions, some of the other teams you have making it through to the playoffs, or some of the teams that you actually have going to the Super Bowl, ones I did not choose. Just like usual though, everyone, please make sure to leave a like and to subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. I will also put in the description below a link to a playlist of all my Rams or NFL content if you're a football fan or a Rams fan in general. And like always, everyone, I will talk to you all very soon, keeping hope alive that the Rams can make the Super Bowl, as I'm sure most Rams fans are really hoping for. And whose house? Rams house, baby.